දවස් 30ක්ම unlimited Netflix බලන්න. unlimited data pack එකක් මුළු පවුලටම unlimited fun එකක් අරගන්න. අදම active කරගන්න.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, the writing on the wall. Protests erupt across the United States as US President Donald Trump plans to challenge key state results in the Supreme Court. Ups and downs. Sri Lanka reports its highest single-day toll of 5 COVID-19 deaths, as well as its highest recoveries. Leaving it in your hands. The Army commander says no plans for an indefinite lockdown and the responsibility for minimizing infection lies with the public. Gearing up. The government receives first batch of faster, more cost-effective rapid antigen test kits to enable increased testing frequency. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Thursday, the 5th of November, 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
Nava sunlight sakura, then dikukal pavatina sakura mal suandin.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknaik. Let's start with your local stories by taking a look at the pandemic situation. Now, in a day of ups and downs in the country's virus battle, Sri Lanka saw its heaviest single-day toll of 5 deaths, increasing the total to 29. However, the number of recoveries reported today offered a ray of hope as the island saw its highest single-day recoveries of 765 patients discharged from hospital. Following today's spike in deaths, most of them elderly patients with underlying medical conditions, the Government Medical Officers Associations urged the public to act responsibly and help protect those who remain at the highest risk.
Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena confirmed the deaths of 5 more coronavirus patients in the country. The deceased were reportedly residents of Colombo 2, 12, 14, 15 and Vellampitiya. It was also revealed that the majority of the patients were suffering with underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, the 79-year-old woman who passed away at her residence yesterday has tested positive for COVID-19 after tests were carried out during the post-mortem. The results revealed that she had been suffering from a chronic disease, but the immediate cause of death was reported as cardiac arrest caused by the coronavirus. Her death was reported as the country's 24th death from COVID-19.
පළවෙනි අවස්ථාවේ ඉඳන් මාස 9ටම මරණ සිද්ධ වුණේ 13යි. නමුත් මේ දින කිහිපය ඇතුළත අපිට සති දෙකක් වගේ කාලය ඇතුළත මරණ 11ක් වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට රෝගයේ ව්‍යාප්තිය වගේම මරණ සංඛ්‍යාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් උත් යම් බැරෑරුම් තැනකට අපි ගමන් කරලා තියෙනවායි කියන එක පැහැදිලියි. දැන් මේ මැරිච්ච සමහර අයගේ ප්‍රතිඵල අපිට කොවිඩ් රෝගියෙක් කියලා දැනගන්නේ මරණ පරීක්ෂණයේදී. ඒ කියන්නේ සමහර දිනේ ගෙවල් වල තමයි මරණයට පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මේක අපේ විශේෂ අවධානයට ලක් විය යුතු දෙයක්. එතකොට සමහර දිනෙකගේ PCR මුලින් නෙගටිව් වෙලා තිබිච්ච අය තමයි මරණයෙන් පස්සේ පොසිටිව් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට නැවත අර අපිට ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයත් නිර්දේශ කරන රිපීටඩ් ටෙස්ටිං කියන්නේ PCR පරීක්ෂණ නැවත නැවත කිරීමේ අවශ්‍යතාවය ඉතාම පැහැදිලිව මේ මරණ ඔස්සේ තහවුරු වෙනවා. අනිත් කාරණේ තමයි මේ වයසක අය තමයි ගොඩක් මේ ගෙවල් වල මැරිලා තිබුණේ. එතකොට ඒකෙන් පැහැදිලි වෙන දේ තමයි මේ අය සමාජයට ගිහිල්ලා නෙමේ රෝගේ එයාට බෝ වුණේ. වෛරසය ගෙදෙට්ට ඇවිල්ලා. ජනතාව විදිහට අපිට ලොකු වගකීමක් තියෙනවා මේ මොහොතේදී අපි අවදානම් කණ්ඩායමට රැක බලා ගන්න.
Meanwhile, 443 more people were confirmed to have contracted COVID-19 yesterday. The highest number of patients among the group, amounting to 212, were reported to be from the Colombo district. From the rest, 62 are from the Gampaha district, 20 from the Kalutara district, 9 from Ratnapura, 6 from the Nuwara district, 3 each from the districts of Mathura and Kandy, and 2 each from the Kurunegala and Galle districts. Included among the new patients are 94 police officers from various police stations, 5 staffers from a state institution located in Colombo, and 25 members of the public detected at quarantine facilities. All these cases have been confirmed as contacts of the Paliagoda cluster. Meanwhile, 7 more police officers from the Boralla police have been infected with the virus, bringing the total to 48. Another 17 police personnel at the Colombo Fort police station were also confirmed to have contracted the virus. As of today, a total of 180 infected officers have been detected from police stations in the Western Province. In addition, 257 police personnel have been directed to quarantine centres. With that, a total of 297 police officers are currently infected with the virus.
රෝගීන් දවසින් දවස බිහි වෙන්නේ පොලිසිය දැන් රාජකාරී කරන අයගේ නෙමෙයි. ඒ අය නිරෝධායන කඳවුරු 3ක නිරෝධායනය වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම බැරැක්කවල කඳවුරු වල නිරෝධායනය වෙනවා. කෙසේ වෙතත් අපි ඒ තත්ත්වය පාලනය කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම පොලිසියේ කටයුතු සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
In the meantime, 6 inmates of the Valikada prison and a prison guard have also been diagnosed with the virus. It was revealed that 2 of the inmates were imprisoned recently. The detection was made following random PCR tests carried out. However, authorities are yet to ascertain the origins of infection. Meanwhile, among the new infections are 11 more port employees. Further, 3 more employees of the Kolonava Urban Council have been infected with COVID-19, raising the total number of infections from the Urban Council to 86. With an employee of the Colombo Central Mail Exchange having tested positive, all operations were suspended until further notice. In the meantime, 33 infections were reported yesterday from several areas under the Jayala MOH division. 6 of the cases in the area are personnel attached to the Rajagiriya STF camp. All of them are contacts of the Paliaguda cluster. In addition, 9 more residents of Mavanalla have tested positive for COVID-19. According to health authorities, among the patients are a couple who recently celebrated their marriage, which resulted in the self-isolation of about 120 attendees at the ceremony. According to the Mavanalla Chief Medical Officer of Health, the groom is a police officer attached to a police station in Colombo. Elsewhere, 3 persons in Derana have tested positive for the virus. Among them are a 13-year-old child, a police officer attached to the Kalania STF camp, and a fishmonger. In Horana, a group of employees of a private apparel factory recently tested positive, and further PCR tests conducted among other employees revealed 6 more infections. Another employee of the factory residing in Ahaliaguda was also diagnosed with the virus. The husband and daughter of the Ahaliaguda patient too have also tested positive. Meanwhile, a staff member at the Kalpitia Base Hospital is also among the new infections. He was identified as a contact of the Paliaguda cluster. As a result, steps were taken to quarantine a nurse and 2 other staff members. However, hospital operations are continuing as normal. With the new cases tabulated, the number of infections emerging from the Minuangoda apparel factory cluster and the Paliaguda cluster now stands at 8,713. Among them are 1,041 employees of the Minuangoda apparel factory and 1,007 workers at the Paliaguda fish market. The rest of the 6,665 confirmed cases are contacts of the Minuangoda and Paliaguda clusters. Further, 2,785 patients from the 2 clusters have now completely recovered. At present, the country's total number of COVID-19 cases stands at 12,400. Meanwhile, on a positive note, the country saw its highest single-day recoveries, reported after 765 patients were discharged from hospitals today. With that, recoveries rose to 6,623 today, with 5,753 active cases remaining.
Safeguard hand sanitizer. නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නිරෝගීමත් දිවයකට.
Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva says that the government has no intention of shutting down the country indefinitely, indicating that the current curfew in the Western Province will be lifted as planned next Monday. The Army Commander added that following this, the public will be expected to bear the responsibility of maintaining the necessary precautions in order to minimize further person-to-person infections. In the meantime, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana warned members of the public that the police will enforce a zero-tolerance policy on those misusing or falsifying curfew permits.
The quarantine curfew in the Western Province, which is extended from the 2nd of November, is scheduled to be lifted at 5 a.m. on the 9th. With that being the case, Army Commander and Head of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva says that the responsibility of minimizing transmission of the virus will remain in the hands of the public once the curfew is lifted next Monday.
දින 10ක් වගේ එක දිගට නිරෝධායන ඇඳිරි නීතිය යොදවලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අන් කිසිවක් නෙමෙයි වැඩිම ජනගණත්වයක් තිබෙන බස්නාහිර පළාතේ පුද්ගලයෙක් අතර පුද්ගලයෙක්ට මේක ව්‍යාප්ත වීම අවම කිරීමට. ඉතින් ජනාධිපතිතුමා අපිට පැහැදිලි උපදෙස් දුන්නා කෙසේ හෝ මේ දින 10 තුල කරගත යුතු සියලුම PCR පරීක්ෂණ කරගෙන මේ පැතිරීම වැළැක්වීම සඳහා ගත යුතු සියලුම ක්‍රියාමාර්ග අරගෙන අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම බස්නාහිර පළාත 9 වෙනි හවුදා උදෑසන 5 වෙනකොට අනිවාර්යයෙන් විවෘත කිරීමට කටයුතු කරන්නයි කියලා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිසිසේත්ම බලාපොරොත්තුවක් නැහැ ඉන් ඉදිරියටත් මේක කරගෙන යන්න. ඉතින් ඒක හින්දා ජනතාවගේ අතේ මේක තත්ත්වෙ තිබෙන්නේ ඔබ කටයුතු කරනවා නම් ඔබ කොවිඩ් ආසාදිතයෙක් නොවි සිටීමට වග බලා ගන්නවා නම් අපිට මේ තත්ත්වෙන් මිදීමට හැකියාවක් තිබෙනවා.
With the curfew currently in place within the Western Province and several other police areas, the police reminded the public that misuse of curfew passes will not be tolerated and those found doing so will be dealt with harshly.
බණ්ඩාරගම අටුල්ගම ප්‍රදේශයේදී එක්තරා පුද්ගලයෙක් කුලී රථයක් සඳහා දුරකථන අංකයකට කතා කරාම කුලී රථයක් එවනවා. මේ සමාගමෙන් රථ තුනකට බලපත්‍ර ලබා ගත්තා. මේ එක බලපත්‍රයක් පියදුරු ෆොටෝකොපි ගහලා නම වෙනස් කරලා ව්‍යාජ ලෙස හදලා විකුණලා තිබුණා. අටුල්ගම ප්‍රදේශයේ පුද්ගලයෝ 30 දෙනෙකුට. කෙනෙක්ට රුපියල් 15000යි බලපත්‍ර තුනටම 45000ක් ඔහු ලබාගෙන තිබුණා. ඒ නිසා අපි එවැනි බලපත්‍ර ලබා ගන්න අයට දරුම් දෙනවා. කිසිම ආකාරයක මෙවැනි ක්‍රියා කරන්න එපා. අපරාධ නීතිය යටතේ වරදක් කරනවා. වගේම එහෙම යම්කිසි කෙනෙක් තුන්වෙනි පාර්ශවයකින් බලපත්‍ර හොරෙන් ලබාගෙන කටයුතු කරනවා නම් ඒ බලපත්‍ර ලබා ගන්න අයට ඒ වගේ මේ වාහනත් අපේ බාරයට අරගෙන අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, operations were launched in several areas to detain members of the public found violating curfew. In other developments, the government program distributing essential food item packages to families in self-quarantine worked off in several areas today. Furthermore, Colombo District Secretary Pradeep Yasaratna announced the commencement of the distribution of the 5,000 rupee relief allowance to lower-income families in the Colombo district from today. In the meantime, State Minister of Women and Child Development P.L. Nishanta said that steps have been taken to provide school uniforms to children from the 25th of December. Meanwhile, the Temasek Foundation in Singapore donated 50 ventilators to the Ministry of Health today in order to strengthen COVID-19 treatment services in the country.
As a more virulent strain of virus is spreading across the country, the need to increase the frequency of testing among vulnerable groups has never been more urgent. With the main obstacle to this being the cost and the slow turnaround time for test results, the Sri Lankan government imported 200,000 rapid antigen test kits yesterday from South Korea that can provide a result in just 20 minutes and at a cost of only 1,200 rupees per kit. The government plans to use the new WHO-approved testing kits to test almost 800,000 employees of factories that operate under the Board of Investment and the Export Development Board.
A PCR test is the country's go-to method to detect COVID-19 patients. However, the drawback of the process is that it takes a long time in getting out results in a situation where immediate identification and isolation is of paramount importance. Further, with a more virulent strain of the COVID-19 virus currently doing its rounds across the country, 2 months after the country was able to restrict its previous outbreak to repatriated Sri Lankans, a need to conduct more PCR tests among members of the public has emerged. This need arises as government health authorities have completed between 9,900 to 12,200 PCR tests already during the last month and identified between 200 to 650 COVID-19 positive patients on a daily basis. In order to minimize the turnaround time for the test results, the Ministry of Health decided last week to source a shipment of rapid testing kits that can be used in place of the current testing methodology. With that, under the current phase, the Sri Lankan government received the first batch of 200,000 test kits yesterday from Seoul, South Korea. Accordingly, the new rapid testing kit will be able to provide a test result within 20 minutes of analyzing a sample. Further, the cost per rapid antigen test is only 1,000 rupees. This means the government can now look forward to saving time, money and also expand testing capacities to cover larger groups.
අපිට යම් තැනක් එනවා එතනින් එහාට PCR ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි කර ගැනීමේ අපහසුතාවයක් එනවා. එතෙන්දි තමයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ විකල්ප අඳුනා ගැනීම. ඒ වගේ විකල්පයක් තමයි rapid antigen test එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් ශනික ප්‍රතිදේහ ජනක පරීක්ෂාව. ඉතින් දැන් PCR එකට අඩුම ගානේ පැය 6ක් විතර යනවා. නමුත් මේක විනාඩි 20කින් 30කින් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. PCR එකට අඩුම ගාන රුපියල් 6000ක විතර කොස්ට් එකක් යනවා. මේක ඊට වඩා අඩු ගානකදී කරන්න පුළුවන් පරීක්ෂාවක්. PCR එක අපි ශේෂ්ත්‍රයේදී ගත්තාම අරන් යන්න ඕන ලැබ් එකකට. ඒකට viral transport medium එකක් ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ extraction කරන්න ඕන ලැබ් එක ඇතුළේදී. බොහොම සීමිත පියවර ගානක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ ඇන්ටිජන් ටෙස්ට් එකේ. ඒතකොට ඒක ශේෂ්ත්‍රයේදීම බලන්න පුළුවන් පරීක්ෂාවක්. මේක අපිට වැලිඩේට් කරලා සාර්ථකයි කියලා අපි ඔප්පු වුණොත් එහෙම අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ ක්‍රමවේදය විශේෂයෙන්ම ප්‍රජාව තුළ අහමු සමාජ නීති පරීක්ෂා සීම්ස්ලා මේ අලුත් ක්‍රමවේදය පාවිච්චි කළ හැකි.
මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ලැබිලා තියෙන රැපිඩ් ටෙස්ට් කිට් එකම WHO නැත්නම් ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානය නිර්දේශ කරලා තිබෙන කට්ටල තමයි අපේ ලංකාවට ගෙන්වීමට අවසර දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ සාම්පල අපිට ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සාම්පල වල ප්‍රතිඵලය අනුව අපි ඉදිරියේදී මේ සම්පූර්ණ අපිට අවශ්‍ය සාම්පල් කට්ටල ප්‍රමාණය අනුම් කිරීමට සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The government in the meantime expects to import 800,000 more test kits next week. Accordingly, the test kits will be used to test around 800,000 employees of factories that operate under the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka and the Export Development Board. This program has been implemented as a precautionary measure to ensure the safety of export industry workers and the continuation of production activities without disruption.
What's happening in the race for the White House in the United States? Stay tuned to find out.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, with the final results of the United States presidential election still nowhere close to being announced, protesters have taken to the streets following accusations of election fraud by President Donald Trump and his camp. The Trump campaign announced today that results in several key states will be challenged in the country's Supreme Court. As of now, the results show that Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden in the lead with 264 electoral votes, with 50.4% of the votes counted so far, and President Trump trailing with 214 electoral votes and 48%.
As Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden closes in on the 270 electoral votes needed to take up residence at the White House for the next 4 years, incumbent President Donald Trump's electoral votes have only increased by 1 since yesterday. Currently, following his victory in Wisconsin and Michigan, Biden is just 6 shy with 264 and 50.4% of the votes to Trump's 214 and 48%. Trump reacted to the results with a tirade of tweets in which he claimed to have won Michigan, as well as Georgia, North Carolina and Pennsylvania, in comments flagged as being untrue by Twitter. He also alleged major fraud in the counting of mail-in votes, alleging this as the reason why mail-in ballots are so heavily weighted towards his rival. However, the actual reason for this late surge towards Biden is because the former vice president from an early stage urged Democrats to stay home and vote by mail to avoid COVID-19 infection, while Trump, a harsh critic of COVID-19 lockdowns, called on his supporters to vote in person. As far back as April, Biden urged Congress to provide emergency funds for every state to allow voters to mail in their votes and criticized President Trump for allegedly working to block funding for the U.S. Postal Service, which would handle the tens of millions of ballots. At the time, Biden accused the president of trying to undermine the election and of threatening to block essential COVID-19 assistance if extra funds are provided to the U.S. Postal Service at the time. He added that in doing so, Trump looked to be trying to make it as difficult as possible for people to cast their votes. Meanwhile, the Trump camp announced today that they will be launching legal challenges in the Supreme Court to force recounts in swing states he had lost, increasing fears that President Trump doesn't plan on bowing out gracefully. This is, however, not a new phenomenon. Trump was adamant from as early on as the first presidential debate that he would not respect any result unfair to him.
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat.
Meanwhile, legal experts say that Trump's calls to his supporters to resist what he terms a fraudulent election could be dangerous in the long term in a future Biden presidency.
Most of the election questions should get resolved by state courts to the extent that they have to do with how states count their own ballots. And what counts as a lawful vote under state law. That's the kind of question that state courts should be resolving as a matter of state law. And the U.S. Supreme Court shouldn't really have a role in determining that. Assuming that President Biden does take office, to have a virulent minority of the population, perhaps violently, seeking to destabilize the government on the grounds that it's illegitimate, I think would make it very hard for the government to function.
Meanwhile, protests are ongoing throughout U.S. cities as the long wait for the final result goes into its second night. Tensions ran high into the night following a mostly peaceful start to the day, with reports of widespread violence leading to the National Guard being deployed in Portland, Oregon. Arrests have been made in Minneapolis and New York City, with the police confiscating weapons from some protesters.
Now, coming back to local news, Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira has directed the Acting Inspector General of Police, C.D. Wickramaratne, to brief him immediately on the investigating team appointed to look into the COVID-19 cluster stemming from the Brandix apparel factory in Minuangoda. The Attorney General's coordinating officer, State Counsel Nisha Rajaratne, said that the directive came as the police are yet to launch an investigation into the matter. On the 27th of October, the Attorney General instructed the acting IGP to initiate a probe into the spread of COVID-19 from the Brandix factory and called for a progress report on the investigations within 2 weeks. Accordingly, a team from the Colombo Crimes Division was appointed to look into the matter. However, as several CCD officers were tested positive for the virus, the Attorney General later directed the acting IGP to transfer the probes from the CCD to a special investigating team from other units. The government last night released an extraordinary gazette under the Consumer Affairs Act No. 9 of 2003, setting out maximum prices of rice varieties to be maintained by rice suppliers or millers. Accordingly, the maximum price set for steamed or boiled white or red samba is 94 rupees per kilogram. Furthermore, the maximum price for white or red raw samba has also been set at 94 rupees per kilogram. The Gazette has also limited the price of a kilogram of steamed or boiled white or red nadu at 92 rupees per kilogram. Meanwhile, the price set for a kilogram of white or red raw rice is 89 rupees. These prices came into effect from yesterday, the 4th of November. We will see you shortly. Bear with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Sri Lankan stocks closed 1.66% higher today, reaching the 6,000 psychological benchmark. The all-share price index gained 98.2 points, while the S&P SL 20 index of most liquid stocks gained 29.57 points. Now, here's a brief report on today's market performance.
Today we saw another positive day in the market as the market saw a bullish trend for the third consecutive day. Today the ASPI gained by about 98 points and crossed the 6,000 mark for the first time in 2 weeks yet again. And today the ASPI ended at 6,004 points, while the S&P SL 20 also gained by around 30 points to end at 2,347. So we saw significant amount of retail activity today. The retail investors were the main cause for this bullish trend. We are starting to see some high level of retail activity. Today the market turnover also crossed the 4 billion mark, 4.2 billion, and the number of trades also crossed 30,000 trades to reach 32,000. The total net foreign outflow was about 309 million rupees.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.